We are now live.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Yeah, I am Benedict Malilin, and I will be your moderator for this session. This session is on quality assurance in occupational therapy. For this session, we have three presentations. Each speaker will have 15 minutes to present, and this will be followed by 5 minutes of question and answer. You may type your question by clicking on the Q&A box on the right side of your screens. Please use the Q&A box rather than the chat box for your questions to the speakers. If you want to speak, please click on raise your hand also on the right side of your screen. Wait for me to recognize you and to activate your microphone. We would like to recognize the generosity of our corporate partners that are sponsoring this session, the Japanese Association of Occupational Therapists, Chiang Mai University, and One World Connect. Our first speaker is Dr. Claudia von Zweck. She has held leadership positions in occupational therapy organizations at the local, national, and international level and currently serves as operations manager for the World Federation of Occupational Therapists. Dr. von Zweck received her Bachelor of Science in Occupational Therapy at the University of Toronto and her master's degree in Community Health and Epidemiology and doctorate in Rehabilitation Science from Queen's University in Canada. Her presentation is entitled World Federation of Occupational Therapists Quality Indicator Framework. It is my honor to introduce Dr. Claudia von Zweck. Dr. von Zweck, you may begin your presentation.
Thank you. Now we have the, thank you very much.
In this session, we will be presenting the Quality Evaluation Strategy Tool, or QUEST, that was developed by the World Federation of Occupational Therapists. I'm Claudia von Zweck, and I am presenting today with Sandra Bressler. Sandra and I serve as the co-chairs of the WFOT Quality Indicators Expert Working Group. In presenting today, we would like to acknowledge the work of all members of the International Working Group that led to the development of QUEST. In today's session, we plan to provide a brief overview of the WFOT Quality Indicator Project objectives and activities, discuss why the use of quality indicators in occupational therapy is important, describe the quality indicator framework as a conceptual model for defining meaningful indicators for occupational therapy, and outline resources available to assist you with using QUEST in your work. WFOT began the Quality Indicator Project in 2014 with the objective of gaining an understanding of how quality indicators are used in healthcare. A project report was developed in 2015 that provided recommendations to WFOT for further work on quality indicators. In 2015, a second phase of the Quality Indicator Project was initiated with the objective of defining a global set of indicators that describe occupational therapy. A first draft report was developed by the Quality Indicators Working Group for the second phase of the study in 2018. The report outlined a conceptual model, core quality indicators, SMART criteria, and an implementation process for the indicators. Pilot testing of these elements was conducted in 2018 in sites around the world through workshops held in South Africa, the United Kingdom, Argentina, and Israel. Pilot testing was also undertaken through an online process. Findings of this pilot testing were used by the project team to refine the core indicators. In 2019, a report was published on the initial work of the project team, followed by the formal launch of the project that was renamed QUEST, the Quality Evaluation Strategy Tool. The project has now entered Phase 3, which involves dissemination of QUEST using a broad array of resources and activities. QUEST is a tool that describes 7 core quality indicators that are designed for use by all occupational therapists, regardless of geographic location, practice settings, and population served. Indicators are measurement tools, screens, or flags. By definition, indicators only tell part of the story, but provide useful information regarding the overall issue that's under investigation. In our everyday lives, we use indicators frequently. For example, by looking at the outdoor temperature as a measure of the overall weather. We use the temperature reading to guide our clothing choices to ensure we are properly dressed before going out. Temperature readings can be a flag for action when used in other contexts. For example, if a thermometer tells you that you have a fever, you should stay home from work to recover from your illness and avoid making others sick. As these examples demonstrate, indicators can assist with decision making when they provide reliable information, are easy to interpret, and focus on important issues. Occupational therapists are increasingly expected to use quality indicators in their work. Goals of using quality indicators include improving health outcomes, enhancing satisfaction with service, and optimizing the efficient use of resources. A number of people are interested in the use of data that's generated by quality indicators, including occupational therapists to review and continuously improve service, managers and administrators to review services across common elements of service, clients to ensure the right services are provided in the right way, researchers to develop evidence to inform practice, regulators to promote quality of service provided to the public, and funders to provide accountability for money spent and services provided. The use of quality indicators is expected to occur within a continuous improvement practice context, where the ongoing improvement of quality of occupational therapy services is considered a professional responsibility. Within such an environment, it is assumed that opportunities for quality improvement always exist, driving innovation to better address the needs of people using occupational therapy services. QUEST serves as a tool throughout a cyclical quality improvement process and assists occupational therapists to define expectations for service delivery, define meaningful quality indicators, measure the impact of service changes, and monitor service performance. QUEST outlines the quality indicator framework to identify 7 core indicators for occupational therapy. QUEST also describes the quality evaluation process that outlines how the core indicators can be implemented for a particular occupational therapy service. First, we'll describe the quality indicator framework. Quality is a multidimensional concept with many factors that may be potentially measured when using indicators to evaluate occupational therapy services. To be effective to drive continuous improvement, indicators need to provide meaningful information. QUEST therefore describes the quality indicator framework as a conceptual model to systematically define a set of 7 meaningful core indicators for occupational therapy. The quality indicator framework has a matrix design. In this matrix, quality dimensions are described on the vertical axis to identify what elements or facets of quality are measured. Quality perspectives are defined on the horizontal plane to outline how quality is evaluated. QUEST evaluates many dimensions of quality, including appropriateness, whether the right services are provided to the right person in the right place and at the right time. Sustainability, or whether access is available to resources needed for service delivery without compromising future availability. Accessibility, or the ease of obtaining services. Efficiency, which measures the use of resources for maximum results. Effectiveness, which measures the provision of evidence-informed service for those people who can benefit from the service. Person-centeredness, which measures the experiences of service users. And safety, that measures the reduction of risk and avoidance of harm. Quest recognizes that different factors influence a quality experience during the service delivery process, and therefore measures quality from 3 different perspectives. Quality perspectives include structure elements, such as people, equipment, and resources, as well as processes that define how service is delivered and outcomes that occur as a result. With the matrix design of the quality indicator framework, each quality dimension is assessed from the perspective of structure, process, or outcome to define the 7 core indicators. Structure indicators evaluate the quality dimensions of appropriateness and sustainability to assess environmental factors and resources required to deliver occupational therapy services. Process indicators evaluate the quality dimensions of accessibility and efficiency to assess access to and provision of evidence-informed services that optimally use resources. Outcome indicators evaluate the dimensions of effectiveness, person-centeredness, and safety to assess whether goals for occupational therapy are met, while also maintaining user satisfaction and ensuring safety. The core quality indicators identified by Quest are generic. They therefore can be used with all geographic locations, practice settings, and populations. However, to use the indicators for a specific occupational therapy practice, the core indicators need to be further defined to be SMART. Specific, measurable, agreed upon, relevant, and timely. Quest describes a quality evaluation process to help occupational therapists to identify quality expectations in their practice for each core indicator. Using the quality expectations, specifications are then described to outline the core indicator to be SMART. This involves developing a standard method of measuring the indicator, including determining what calculations are used, as well as the terms that are used in the calculations. By defining the indicator to be SMART, the measure provides consistent information that can be compared over time or between groups. As an example, SMART indicators can be developed using Quest to measure the impact of introducing a new occupational therapy intervention. The core indicator for appropriateness, availability of competent occupational therapists, is defined for this example as the percentage of occupational therapists trained in the protocol for the new intervention. Similarly, the indicator for sustainability, availability of long-term supply of resources, is defined as the number of local dealers that provide equipment and supplies needed for the new intervention. SMART process indicators for this example evaluate the number of clients each month meeting eligibility criteria that receive the occupational therapy intervention, as well as the average number of sessions required per client to deliver the intervention according to the treatment protocol. SMART outcome indicators evaluate the average functional gains made by clients, the number of clients that are satisfied to follow the protocol, and the incidence of harm to clients or staff associated with use of the intervention. WFOT offers a number of resources on the WFOT website to assist with use of Quest, including an implementation guide, as well as multiple case studies and worksheets. The Quest implementation manual is currently available in English, French, Spanish, German, Japanese, and Arabic. WFOT also offers a free online course available from the WFOT website. Several case studies have been developed based on actual services and programs around the world. We're looking to further develop case studies from around the world. So if you use this tool, we're interested that you share your work with us to add to the growing evidence of the use of Quest in occupational therapy. A recent WFOT bulletin article illustrates how Quest can be used as a research framework. WFOT surveyed occupational therapists regarding the impact of COVID-19 for quality and delivery of occupational therapy during the pandemic. Survey questions collected data relating to the Quest core quality indicators. To summarize our presentation, we'd like to emphasize that Quest provides a comprehensive strategy to use data to demonstrate the value of occupational therapy by describing a set of quality indicators applicable to all practice settings. The data from Quest provides evidence and accountability of how occupational therapy advances health outcomes, enhances satisfaction, and optimizes the use of limited resources. This completes the formal part of our presentation. Thank you for listening. We now welcome any questions or comments you may have.
No, thank you. If anybody
Okay.
has,
Yes. Thank you for for the video presentation, Dr. Van Zwick. We now have time for questions. Uh, for the attendees, kindly use the Q&A chat box on the right side of your screen. Well, I'd like to be the first one to ask the question, Dr. Van Zwick, if it's
okay,
okay.
sure.
Okay. It's a quality indicator framework, right? I would like to know if this quality indicator framework can be used in a different setting, like especially in a multidisciplinary setting.
Yes, I would think that it's really designed to be used not just for occupational therapy, but it could be relevant also to other disciplines as well. And I think it could be used in a wide variety of areas. So because we made the indicators very generic, it's just a matter of how you define those indicators, how you decide that you're going to measure those. And as I described in the video, it's a matter of looking at what the service expectations would be around that core indicator, and then defining specifically how you decide that you want to measure that particular core indicator, and what kind of data is going to be meaningful for you to trend over time around that quality indicator. So, yeah, I think it has versatility to be used in a multidisciplinary setting in many different kinds of occupational therapy services.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another question from Miss K Rubio. Miss K, I'm turning on your microphone now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, I
Yeah.
can. Thank you.
Yes. Hi. So you had mentioned in your presentation that WFOT is encouraging practitioners to share their experience when they use Quest.
Yes, yes.
Is there any particular setting or any particular program that WFOT prefers? And like if it's a new program, um, do you require a specific length of time that the program used Quest as a quality measure?
Um, so it's so what we're interested in is having sort of a case study in terms of how people are using Quest in their work,
Mhm.
and we we have actually developed case studies, short case studies that we put up on the website that look at Quest and with different areas of practice. We've primarily looked at clinical areas of practice. There is one that's related more to an education program, but as I say, I think it can work. Quest can work in a variety of settings. So we're not prescriptive. Any kind. If you are using Quest in any kind of environment, it would be quite interesting for us to hear about how that's being used.
Mhm.
In We've posted a couple of different ones that have, at this point in time, that have been developed, one on work practice and another one that was developed by and working with a homeless population. It was more using Quest in a prospective approach to look at how you could develop a new program, whereas as opposed to developing a program that was already in place. So those are a couple of different examples, but we'd be really interested to know how people are using Quest, and encourage you to, if you're interested, to let us know.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. I see that there's a there's a question that this seems to be a very useful tool. I'm interested to know how stakeholders, our clients, have been involved in conceptualizing the framework. So when we did the development of the tool, we we pilot tested the tool in a number of number of different workshops, and we also did an online process. Now, we have primarily pilot tested it with occupational therapists, and we haven't involved necessarily clients unless clients were involved in in any of the online consultations. Um, but I do think that the way that the indicators, the way that we've described, that our core indicators are very generic and they can be defined more specifically for each practice setting. And I think that that's really where involvements of clients can and different stakeholders can come in, because it's really looking at what are the most important issues around those core indicators that need to be measured for that particular service. And so we do have a dimension that looks specifically at at satisfaction with service, and I think that that would be a particular area that would be of interest. But there's also areas, for example, around safety, that also, and effectiveness, and that clients would be very interested to get their input to inform how that would be used.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Van Zweck. Well,
You're
that's all
welcome.
the time we have for questions, but remember
Okay.
that you can still ask our speaker questions through the chat box on the right side of your screen. Okay?
Thank you
Uh,
very
oh,
much.
thank you. For all the attendees, we're inviting everyone to attend the luncheon presentation later at 12 noon Manila time of One World Connect. Okay? So, our second speaker Our second speaker is Ji Seok Yeon. She has experiences with children and family in the community and school system for about 20 years. Through her experience, organizational effort, and systematic support are essential for good occupational therapy practice, and she has been trying to work in an organizational way in rapidly changed society. Her presentation is entitled Persisting Occupation Centered Practice Through Using and Practicing Occupation Centered Model, the review of OTIPM, mentoring group work for 6 years in Korea. It is my honor to introduce Ms. Ji Seok-yeon. Ms. Seok-yeon, you may begin your presentation.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. So let me introduce my presentation. Before this presentation, I'd like to, maybe we can use the Quest for for us, our services. So now I'm talking from Korea, and personally, okay, personally, my story. I started working from the pediatric part, but my father has some illness and disease. For that's why I became the occupational therapist. And during the work, for the first time, I'm more focusing on the body problem or problem list, because the problem removed, then I thought we can back to the occupation. But eventually I could found the real occupation is not same as the body function. So I found with my colleagues find some occupation centered model and tools for our to we should change our thinking process in the occupational way. So personally, I started use the OT model, and it was quite successful, and more support to advocate ourselves and with clients. But in the country, I'm working in a private way, but our society, even South Korea, economically developed very much, but our aging people increasing suddenly, and still our suicidal rate is very high, and our medical and health support system is very focused on the mortality or morbidity control, but very less focused on the mental health, rehabilitation, and life participation. So OT number was very small, but after 2000, it becomes suddenly increased because the the OECD pushed the Korean, and then many foreign countries push Korea's mental health services. So the OT numbers is suddenly increasing, but our quality becomes, because suddenly increasing may be the reason of the quality, decreasing quality. So small group. My license number is 200, but nowadays new OTs are more than 10,000. So the very many 20s and the early 30s OT is main members. So third, experienced OTs are rare. So we need to do something. But our continuing education program is very only one way education. But we don't consider the some mentoring group or studying group. But we started voluntarily. So I am the member of the faculty of EMPS. So I started to using OTPM because it is very specific, and it teaches step by step. So structured format was quite attractive for new OTs. So we can start it OTPM case implementation group, and we can recruit the members. So our group was more focusing with OT for the pediatric peoples. because my work was that. It was not on one-way lecture, but 10 or 20 members gathering one group. Then we gathered every month during the 1 year. So we contract the 1 year study groups. So we participate 10 times, and we have a contract to we should present one or two presentation for the case report or other OT theory or practice. So each members have a chance to present, and each member have a chance to listen. At first, 2011, it was a divided two groups. So members were very passionate. And the second time, we started to pair mentoring, but pair was not successful. And the people working in the hospital, they feel struggling because many institutional record was very body focused, and even we focusing on the people's occupational development, but it was not get reimbursed from the budget. So now, so the people hard to find the real occupation. So around 2014, we met some study group with school teacher groups, because school teachers get struggling with many students in the real school. So our group get some contract with visiting school and to implementing the occupation centered implementation. It was a volunteer at that time, but after that, we found many real occupational situation in the school. So in the hospital, it was quite a simulation, but in the school, it was a real situations. So now this study group is quite keeping going stable way. And after the pandemic, we only do the virtual group, but it was still going. So our participants are still increasing. So each year members were increasing, and we should divide several groups. And we found out that we have a rare mentors and rare leaders. And even the member was increasing, but the people are shy and refuse to present their case. So they need to encourage. And maybe their experiences were very short, and they moved new places again, and then they discontinued the study groups. But some people's participate these study groups persistently, not once, but they want to keep again and again. And the second times participants, they more voluntarily worked for the gathering or contacting, preparing some snacks for the meetings. So nowadays, the 8 members or more than 20 members are still want to keep this study, because we feel we increase ourselves or quality of our services. So we gather the case presentation, and we made the book each year. Not publication, but we got the present for us. So many of them are just present one times, but several members are case presented. They do the persistently. So we found the keeping persistent, doing reflect our case study and in our services. Then we found that we reduce the previous error, and we trying to keeping our services higher. So let me show some picture and the models. So our members are young, and so we need to share and get a party and study together, and we need to encourage more. Then we should get some hard feedback and hard discussions. So many collaboration and many trials and errors are found like this way. This is not mm, provided, but if you want, I will share this slide, because the left bar is the OTIPM process, and each cases we reflect what we've learned and what we've wrong or confused and what was changed. Each step has filled with success, but we found our usual wrong mistakes. For example, we do not we are not we are tended to clarify the difficulties and problem first, and we are tending to the guess first when we see the clients. Not so that we are trying to find the people's occupation first, and we are trying to interview the occupation first by these steps. Even many errors, but the after case report and case presentation, then we aware what was wrong and what was right. Then the repeating this process, then we find out our development. And we find out also the pediatric OTs tends to focusing on the children's restorative intervention more than compensatory intervention. But when we do the compensatory intervention, then we found out the much faster the occupation performance increasing. So during this meeting or mentoring groups, we changes many things from ourselves. We changed our insight. Many OTs still focusing on the problem or the disease or disabilities, but this member after the study, then we more using the occupation words, and we maybe the more increasing express ourselves, and the more not frustrated to the sharing feedback. So we still in the cloud. I mean, we are not still clear, but we know follow the basic occupation way with a good tool is the best way. Our documentation is very, very changed a lot. Strength list is first, and our sentences sometimes using the OT gives something something, but the words started from the client's act and plus OT support. Now these members, especially the experienced OTs, are referring from the school consultation or other diverse populations community care. So we are using the OTIPM, and now my idea we can check by the quest. Maybe yes, it will be useful. And last, our next challenge will be, I think we need more Korean OT participants who do their show their case report even once. And we also need more OT leaders to encouraging the participation OT themselves. And we need to learning OT models more than biomechanic models, and sharing this experience to OT colleagues overseas like this chance, because we use Korean so much, and Korean OT are not not good at speaking English, but so we maybe feel some frustration or shyness. But later, I really want to share in this kind of international group meeting with Korean friends. So, and we should persist in our professional effort. Thank you for listening and salamat po.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Ji Seok Yeon, for your presentation. We now have time for questions. Everyone, kindly use the Q&A chat box on the right side of your screen if you have questions for Miss Ji Seok Yeon. Remember, even after the time for the question and answer, if you make a final question regarding the presentation of Miss Seok, you can still ask her the through direct message through the chat box on the right side of your screen.
Thank you.
Okay, there's one chat here. Okay. Anyone would like to ask Miss Seok a question? There's another chat. Okay. A fantastic presentation, Miss Seok from Mr. Benedicto.
Thank you.
I think everyone, it was actually very clear. No one's asking questions. And okay, I'm giving one more minute for everyone to formulate their questions regarding the presentation, and then we'll move on to the third presentation for this morning. Okay, there's a question here. Okay. Yes, how do you think you will get OT leaders to assist you? From Dr. Micah Perez from Brisbane.
So, may I see the question again, please? How do you think you will get OT leaders to assist you? Oh, meeting OTs hardly. How do I get the OT leaders? I think it's not only for the individual way, but also the organizational way, doing together maybe. And yeah, OT leaders. That makes me question, give me the big question too for me. Yes, I will think more.
Okay. There's another question, Miss Seokyeon. From Miss Nanagas. Out of curiosity, thank you for your presentation, Miss Ji Seokyeon. Out of curiosity, may I know why your team chose the OTIPM model there? Question.
Yes, that was many conceptual model was we know already, but I need some practical process models because during the practice we need some we aware that our mistakes because interview or some mixed tests. So that's why I need some process models. So that's why I choose the OTPM. But we combine the many PEO models and I sometimes using the ICF as well. But process model was the good for us. Thank you.
Okay. So I think that's the no more time left for other questions. Remember, you can still ask Miss Ji Seokyeon questions through the chat box on the right side of your screen.
Okay.
Thank you very much again, Miss Seokyeon.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So our third speaker for this morning is Mr. Yuki Choji. He is in a doctoral course at the Tokyo Metropolitan University. He is currently engaged in the development of a collaborative relationship scale between clients and occupational therapists. He is the recipient of research grants from the Japanese Society for Occupational Behavior. His presentation is entitled Development of a Collaborative Relationship relationship scale between client and occupational therapists. It is my honor to introduce Mr. Yuki Choji. Mr. Yuki, you may begin your presentation.
Thank you. Uh, Let me share my screen with you. Can you see the title slide?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Yes. Faye, Miss Faye. Wait.
I think it's loading, sir.
Yes. Okay, it's there, Mr. Yuki.
Okay. Can you see the title slide?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, let's start it. Hello everyone. Thank you for attending this presentation. Let me introduce myself first. I'm Yuki Choji from Toyama Rehabilitation Medical Health and Welfare College in Japan. I'd like to present to you about the development of a collaborative relationship scale between clients and occupational therapists. We'll have a question and answer session at the end of the presentation. Now let's get started. Introduction. In occupational therapy (OT) practices around the world, the phrase "client-centered" is widely employed in a variety of contexts and has always been an integrated value and fundamental element. The focus of the client-centric approach is on treating the client as a unique individual, considering the client's point of view and allowing the client to participate in the decision-making and treat processes. In particular, one of the core values that underpin this client-centric approach is the equal sharing of power that can be enacted through communication practices such as shared decisions. It is generally understood that the success of an OT intervention depends on the quality of the relationship between the client and the therapist and the quality of the decision-making processes that are virtually always involved in the course of treatment. To be an effective facilitator able to allocate, influence, and materially assist clients in solving a wide variety of daily performance issues, the occupational therapists need to fully understand and respect the client's values and daily priorities. In OT, there are established tools that evaluate the relationship between providers and patients, such as the attentional relationship model. This tool features the use of 6 therapeutic modes in the practice of OT: advocating, collaborating, empathizing, encouraging, instructing, and problem solving, and describe the method of the therapeutic use of self.
Sir, Mr. Yuki.
Hi.
Sorry, your screen presentation is not on. It's not shared anymore. The
Oh,
slides.
oh, sorry. Wait. Can you see
Okay.
the title slide? Okay?
Yes.
No?
Yes, it is. It's on the introduction part.
Oh, yes, yes. Sorry. Let's get started. Furthermore, to promote the relationship with the client, occupational therapists in Japan use several evaluation tools such as the COPM and OSA. These scale are the client-centric measures of the client's perceived occupational competence and value and designed to identify change in the client's personality perceptions of occupational performance. But there is no single tool to assess the degree of shared power between the client and occupational therapist in the client-centric decision-making processes. Therefore, it is by default simply evaluated subjectively by occupational therapy at the clinical site. Therefore, the aims of the study were to develop and evaluate what we will call the Occupational Therapy Collaborative Relationship Scale (OTCRS) for use in both research and clinical practice. The hypothesis behind this work is a well-trained occupational therapist fully understands the importance of the relationship that they have with patients, that their relationship can evolve over the course of treatment, and that being able to measure in its quality can lead to more effectively clinical outcomes. Material and methods. Now let's move on to the material and methods section. The development of the OTCRS item bank proceeded in three distinct phases. First, defining a conceptual framework. Second, conducting a literature search and constructing a draft questionnaire. Third, ensuring the face validity of the draft OTCRS, conducting a field testing and calibration of the item bank. First, in order to examine the composition concept, three researchers familiar with client-centered practice collected relevant documents and examined the contents. Next, to ensure intentional consistency of the raw instrument, two experts in this field reviewed it independently. This study was performed between April 2018 and February 2019 after receiving approval from the Ethics Committee of Tokyo Metropolitan University, project number 108044. And statistical analysis. Responses were evaluated using standard item reduction statistics to explore individual OTCRS items. After this, a large analysis was used to review how well each item contributed to the overall goal of the instrument in field testing and calibration of the item bank. Results. Now let's move on to the result. Firstly, I'd like to talk to you about the result of Phase 1. We identified 480 studies, the abstract of which was screened. Of these, full text regarding of 130 papers and 7 books were carried out. The authors independently did these studies and refined the concept of the metric that we wanted to develop in a series of predefined selection steps. This literature search and its evaluation yielded 41 questions that could potentially be used in the instrument. For each of these questions, a 4-point Likert scale from 1 to 4 was developed to assess the degree of shared power between the client and occupational therapist in the client-centric decision-making processes. Here are the results of Phase 2. Each reviewer examined the composition of the OTCRS 3 times. Finally, the draft instrument was reduced from 41 to 40 items after each question was refined. For each of these items, we developed a 4-point Likert scale to assess the severity of impairment. Here are the results of Phase 3. Please look at this pie chart. The pie chart shows a description of study sample of Phase 3. Of the 220 questionnaires sent out, we received 112 12 responses from 40 hospitals. The 7 of these were excluded for not fully completing the instrument, resulting in 105 valid responses, a rate of 47.73%. Please look at this table. This table shows clinical and demographic details. The characteristics of the respondents were as follows: mean age 68.37, sex 48 males and 57 females, mean length of stay at the hospital 128.11 days. The diagnosis included the following: stroke and head trauma, fracture, pulmonary disease, spinal cord injury, cancer, and others. Please look at this histogram. And this is an item to person histogram, which shows the relative positions of item difficulty and personal ability. A difference between its averages of persons and item up to 1 lodges is generally considered acceptable. The average person ability was 0.90 lodges, whereas item ability averaged 0 lodges. The finding that the person ability shifted to the right when compared with item ability indicates that the questionnaire better targets those with lower levels of disturbance than those with higher levels of disturbance. OTCRS-9 produced a clear result when it was targeting participants with low-level collaboration relationships rather than those enjoying high levels of cooperation between clients and occupational therapists. Please look at this table. This table shows estimation results for the fitness of the 9 items of the OTCRS. Most items were fitted to the large model. All of the model standard errors were between 0.14 and 0.16. In-fit and out-fit were within the criterion range except for the 4 items. Finally, we extracted 9 items after deleting those which did not fit the large analysis or had a similar difficulty level. Discussion of the CRS-9 in a simple and brief assessment tool with good intentional consistency and validity. In addition, it is a valid instrument for promoting a client-centered practice for occupational therapists and sharing meaningful targets with clients. Moreover, it can easily be employed in everyday clinical settings. OTCRS-9 can also be used to further investigate numerous issues regarding the quality of the collaborative relationship between clients and occupational therapists. Future work should focus on exploring the psychometric properties of the OTCRS-9 in a large sample and assessing convergent and divergent validity as well as determining testing reliability. Lastly, I want to thank you all for your support. Thank you very much for taking the time to join my presentation today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Yuki, for your presentation. We now have time for questions. For the attendees, kindly use the Q&A box on the right side of your screen. comment from Mr. J. A really interesting research
Let's just wait for Mr. Benedict to come back. You're going to pause the session for a while. Oh, here we are. Sir Benedict, are you good? Could you hear us? Thank you again, Mr. Yuki, for your fantastic presentation. We still have time for questions. If anybody has any questions or comments for Mr. Yuki, kindly put them on the Q&A box or on the chat box. Do we have any questions so far from the audience? All right. So we have one question on the comment box, Mr. Yuki. What did the research decide on the 9 questions that did not fit the RASH model? What did you do about the 9 questions that did not fit the RASH model? We're also going to translate for a while for Mr. Yuki. Mr. Yuki, this question was asked. Sorry. This question was asked by a participant. What did the researchers
Can you hear
do
me?
about? Yes, sir. Go ahead. What did you do about the 9 questions that did not fit the RASH model? Are you able to hear us, Mr. Yuki?
Can you hear me now?
I'm here
Yes,
now.
sir, Benedict. We can
Sorry
hear
about
you.
that. Still no questions?
We have questions on the Q&A.
Okay. Um, from Miss Rubio. What did the research decide on the nine? Why did the research decide on the 9 questions that did not fit the RASH model?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your question. In developing our scale, we focus on creating valid items. As a result, fewer items met the criterion for RASH analysis. This scale can be quickly used as a screening tool after setting client and occupational therapy goals. In the future, we will examine the relationship between the result of this scale and the therapeutic effects of OT.
Okay. There's one more, Mr. Yuki, from Mr. Dominic.
Thank you for your question. This question is I don't get forget. I can remember that the details right now. Can I get back to you later?
Okay, Mr. Yuki. So we will be pinning this question, and then we'll be sending to you, Mr. Dominic Chio. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. I'm giving everyone one more minute to formulate their questions, final questions for Mr. Yuki regarding his presentation? There's one. Mr. Yuki, what was the inspiration for creating this tool?
Thank you for your question. The aim of this study was to develop and evaluate what we will call the Occupational Therapy Collaborative Relationship Scale, or TCRS, for use in both research and clinical practice. This work included constructing a draft questionnaires and testing its um, validity and reliability. You can use this scale to promote client-centric centers. I'm interested in client-centric approach. Thank you.
Okay. So I think that's all the time we have now for questions. But remember, you can still ask our speaker questions through the chat box. We would like to recognize thank you, Mr. Yuki. We would like to recognize the generosity of our corporate partners that are sponsoring this session: the Japanese Association of Occupational Therapists, Chiang Mai University, and One World Connect.
Thank you.
And thank you to all our speakers. Before we end, we would like to present certificates of appreciation to our speakers. Here's the certificate.
Hold on po.
Okay, while we're preparing the certificate, there's another question, Mr. Yuki. Okay. Here's the certificate. Okay. The certificate reads: the Philippine Academy of Occupational Therapists and Learning Ablers present this certificate of appreciation to Dr. Claudia Von Zweck, Ms. Ji Seokyeon, and Mr. Yuki Choji for being an oral presenter during the 7th Asia Pacific Occupational Therapy Congress hosted by the Philippines via AirMe on the 22nd of November 2021. Signed, R. Lyle Duque and Arcel Rosario Gozan, co-conveners, and Dr. Anthony Grescia, President, Philippine Academy of Occupational Therapists. Okay, thank you for all their speakers. I would like to encourage everyone to join the luncheon presentation of one of our sponsors, One World Connect, at 12 noon. And also, if you're on social media, don't forget to tag us at hashtag APOTC 2021 Manila. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for the participation. Thank you to our speakers. Okay. And have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.